Hi everyone, welcome back to part 2 of making a house beat from scratch. So in the first video, if you haven't watched that already, this is what we've made so far. So that is our 8-bar loop. We have just got a lot of different elements going on there. We talked about the foundation of the whole drums. So in that video, we looked over the foundation and then we looked at other elements within there. We added a shaker, a shuffling hi-hat, a couple of snares and a ride. This next video, I want to show you what other things you can add to this if you choose to. If this is enough for you and your arrangement, and then you probably don't need to go any further. But if you're just wanting to add something else to it, I'm just going to show you a couple of things that you can do, and that would add to the drum loop already. I'm going to look at how you can create a custom lo-fi loop. So I'm just going to select a section and highlight this section on this MIDI track. On this track is called Superior Drummer 3. Now, Superior Drummer 3 is a high quality recorded sample based plugin where they've recorded all these classic real drums from different eras and different companies. So this, for example, is the snare. If I just unmute it, you can hear it. Toms. So all these different sort of drum kits that get formed into a package, an SDK. So here we have different drum kits. We can select what drum kits we want. So this is from the custom and vintage SDK. So in here we have a variety of drum kits we can use. Let's say this damp kit, for example. Different sound, but I'll just go back to this vintage Oaklaw. It's got a snappy snare. Say if I wanted a different snare, I could just come in here and pick one of these snares. So let's say that one, for example. Let's pick that one. So how I want to use this is I want to just select this area, press Command, Shift and M, and then in this downbeat area here, I want to find the sounds that I want to utilize within this. I think I'm just going to focus on hats at the moment. So I'm just going to find where they are. Press B on my keyboard to bring up the pencil tool. That one. So I quite like all these here. Different recordings of the same sound, so the hat. So what I want to do with this is just for this section to highlight these, I'm going to just press Command and A on this section, and then I'm just going to go over here to the left hand side and go down to legato. Legato will extend the notes across the full spectrum. If we had a note here, this note would go to the end here, and then this one would go all the way to the end. But I'll just delete that for now and then just go down to legato. I then want to add a MIDI effect to this, so I'm going to add the arpeggiator to this. So when these are getting played, what this is going to do is going to send a signal into this arpeggiator, which is going to play one of these notes individually. So depending on what I pick depends on the outcome of the hi-hat loop. So let's just play it and let's just play around with this arpeggiator. And let's see if that fits in as mix. It might not fit in with his mix, but let's just see. So I quite like the pattern that it's bringing out. It's fitting well with the drums itself. I do, however, want a different sort of hat in there, and they just seem to be too similar, and there doesn't seem to be any movement between the actual drum pattern. It just seems to be very monotonous. So I'm just going to click on a few of these buttons, see what other sounds are like in there. So I'm going to go with them. So I think if I just take off, just select these three at the top and press 0, that deactivates the MIDI note. I'm just going to select these 3 notes and press the legato a few times, and then what that should do now is play this loop if I turn the arpeggiator on with them new sounds that we've got in there. And now we've got a different vibe, we've got a different feel to it. So let's bring that in within the mix. So that might be a bit fast for you, but if the rate is too fast, then you could always bring it down. And what this does is it just locks it on the grid. If you want it to be more freestyle, you could use the milliseconds button. And what that does is it turns this rate into milliseconds. So now you can really start to really try and sync it up by using your ears. And what you could do with that is you could record that in as you're automating it in real time, and then you could then from that recording you could create a snippet of that or select a snippet from that and then use that for the whole loop. So if I were to do that, I'd right click here, go into insert audio track, go to this menu here and select number 15, because that is the superior drummer, that's what we want it from. And then we're going to go post mixer and this overdub button, MIDI overdub button. And what that will do is if I am on this track, for example, you see this little red record light dim come up. What it's going to do is it's not going to overwrite the MIDI in the actual arrangement view. So with that being done, I'm just going to press record. So there were a bit in there that worked, probably this bit here. So if I just highlight these 2 areas and then just press delete, I'm just going to click on this audio loop and press Command and L to loop that section. Mute this superior drummer track, and then within this clip now we should have So what we could do with that is we could bring that to the start of the loop, and then we could highlight the area and go Command and D. That duplicates it over a couple of times, and then now we have that loop. Or you can do other things with it. If you wanted to really tighten this up, you could on this area you could press Command and A to select it all, right click, and then go to insert warp markers. What that will do is it'll insert warp markers on where it finds the transient. From there you can go to transform and then quantize it by the amount that you'd like, hit apply, and what that does is it will quantize it to the grid. But then on top of that, you could add your own groove to it, or the groove of the actual drum loop itself to it, and then just see if it works. And then there is other things you could do on top of this. You could add sidechain to it, but we won't come to that in this video. This is just showing you ways that you can add other elements to your actual drum loop. So if we're happy with that and we like that, let's just try it on 16ths again. So let's say we like this, but at the end of the bar we want it to do something a bit different. What we could do is we could add automation to this. So if I come out of keyboard mode by pressing M and then press A on my keyboard, you'll see now that we are in a different menu. So if I just close that down. In this menu, if I click on a parameter, you will see this changes. So what we can do here is, let's say I'm on 8th notes, and then in this last part here I want to change it to maybe 16th notes. So all I would do is press B on the keyboard and then take this section down to maybe 16th note, and then this one again, and then this one maybe on 24ths. So let's just hear how this sounds. And now you're adding more to it. So let's just hear this. And then you can maybe bring this down here. You can maybe bring that up there. And then just create a totally different loop. And then you could go even further with this. You can pick a different pattern with it. You could go like this and just really randomize stuff up. You could do whatever you want with it, really. And then the world's your oyster. You can change up to your heart's content. Once you're happy with that, we can create an audio track and then record that into this audio track. So I'm just going to add an audio track by right clicking, insert audio track, go down here and then click on Superior Drummer and then just arm this track, and then what I'm going to do is just press record. So from that we have created a totally different new hat sort of loop altogether. We could then start to rework this audio into ways that would fit within the drum loop itself. So if I select the audio track itself, we are presented with this window down here. On the left hand side we want to be in the audio tab, and then with this in beats mode, preserve wants to be on transient, and then I'm just going to do it to one shot. So what this means is that whenever there's detected a transient, it's just going to play out once, and then this is going to be like an envelope. All I'm going to do is just play this sound, and then I'm just going to bring this down. So with that, we've got a nice tighter sounding hat loop compared to this. So now we've got that, we've got it set up to how we want it to be set up. We can take this a step further. We could start adding effects onto this if we choose to. So one example would be if I added a bit reduction. So in Ableton you have this thing called Redux, and what this is it's sample rate reduction and bit reduction. I won't go too much into what this means, but we'll just hear how it sounds. So it's adding a bit of crushed sort of sound into there, a bit of vintage sound into there. We could also add some saturation, but on this first bit though, I think I'll put it after the Redux. I'm just wanting to see if there's any low end information in there, and there's loads. So what this is just a build up of frequencies throughout the whole spectrum. So we have 0 or 10 hertz down at this end. If I just open it up, and then you'll see on this left hand corner is where my cursor is to corresponding to what it is in hertz. So this sound that's been played. So as you can see, in this area down here we have a lot of information, not a lot but enough information that could clash with other elements of the track. And once you start to build up your track layer upon layer upon layer, all these that is happening, they sort of clash and merge together, and you get sort of phase issues. So what we try to do is, what we want to do really, is to remove the frequencies that we don't want, because the more frequencies that we can remove, the less chance that we're going to get with all this phasing issues and things later down the line when we're starting to mix the track. So as you can see, this hi-hat loop, this is obviously a good part of the hit, so we might want to retain that. But a trick is, if we set this to a low pass filter, so a low pass is basically letting all the low information past, and it's taking out the high, whereas the other way around, it would be a high pass because it's letting the high information through and taking away the low end. So all I'm going to do is just flip this round and just move it up slightly to where I can hear the sound come through. So if you notice in this bit, you can still see the information there, but we can't hear it, so there's no point in having that there. We might want a tighter bell or a curve. I'll come on to this in a later video. We get a different sound, but if we just keep it there, and from that, all we've got to do is just flip that around now. So we know anything that's below this point, it's not going to be there anymore. It might show it up, but we've actually cut it out. So you see it's not there, it's sounding cleaner. Whereas before, it's sounding a bit cleaner. This part here, it might be a bit too loud, so what we could do with that is just lower that down a touch. And then from there, you can start to shape the sound that you've got. I won't go too mad on it, I'd just do the very basics for now. Just because you don't know how it's going to sit within the mix. This is why you do the mixing after you've created all your music and your elements. But that's just a thing just to show you what we can do to remove these frequencies. And now it's just a matter of just finding stuff that work with the track from what you've recorded. So you could basically just have this going on this section. Start to chop it up. Or if you highlighted an area, you could really start to move the audio about to whatever suits the track. And then we could say, right, I like this section, and I can then duplicate that, Command and D, then over this whole 2 bars now we've got this. And so let's say on this last bar, we could come down to this, we could speed this up twice by dividing it by 2. And because we divided it by 2, we can then just duplicate this, and then this last part would be at a higher speed. And then we're starting to work what we've recorded. We're not necessarily being fixed upon what we've recorded, we're just taking a snippet out of it, making it fit as groove that we've got, and then seeing what we can do with that to bring out other elements and create another custom sort of loop. So if I just leave that as it is and then re-enable all these tracks that we had, it sounds like this. So it's sounding quite on the grid. It's not sounding very groovy. So to fix this, we can highlight this whole area, press Command and J. What that does is it consolidates this section, and then what we can do from that is basically click on the actual audio itself, click on this area, press Command and A to highlight the whole area, right click, and then insert warp markers. You can see that it's not done it down here, but if I just add a few by just clicking snap off the grid, and I want to add one there. And then from that, we could add our groove back on to this loop that we've got. So if I just did the 67ths, let's see how that sounds now. And then now we've got a loop that sort of kind of fits with our groove. And that is totally different to what we had originally. So if we're happy with the groove, apply that to this. So now you see we've got that shuffle swing. And then now we can start to change the warp algorithm. So these are different warp algorithms. They do different things. They sound different. But this, I'll come to them in another video. So what I want to do is just basically just go on complex. And then I'm just going to pitch this up to what I think sounds good within the mix. I'm not really liking this last bit here. So what I'm going to do is just highlight this area and press Command and D, and that's going to duplicate that throughout the whole clip now. And then that is how we have gone from getting a sample from a plugin, let's say, but this doesn't have to be a plugin. You could record something in via a microphone. I've just done this so it's easy to show you. So you could do that from basically a microphone. You could be tapping yourself on the table. You could find something, a sound that's interesting, like if you were just playing about and you had a deodorant can, let's say, and you put the lid on and you thought, oh, that sounds pretty good. It sounds a bit sad, but you think, oh, that sounded pretty good. That you could record that, and that could be a part of your clip. So that's how we can create our own custom loops for the house beat. It adds another layer of ear candy to there. You don't have to use hats. You can just take sounds from anywhere, put them into what you think is best, pitch them up, pitch them down, do whatever you want, but do what suits the groove of the track. So if we're happy with that and you're happy with what you've done, then we can move on to the next bit, and that is adding just a touch of vinyl texture in there. So with vinyl texture, this is going to be a third-party plugin. So a third-party plugin is companies outside of Ableton that make VSTs or audio units. Usually they do them all. They make them all to suit all DAWs. But in this case, I'm just going to search for this plugin called Needlepoint, and it's by Unfiltered Audio. Drag and drop that onto a MIDI track, and then this is what you get. So if I just take this back, and I get this. So if I just take this loop to here, what we have when I press play is the actual audio sound of this plugin. And from there you can create a sort of nice vinyl texture depending on whatever settings you've done up. So let's say, for example, the density, and then the bump. Filter stuff out. We can add noise, different rates of noise, color, movement. We can filter out the noise. I just want the vinyl texture in at the moment. So what I'm going to do is just record that audio onto a new audio clip. So if I open up, right click on this section, insert an audio track, which is what we've got here. I select the input to be the MIDI, which is MIDI 24, and then want to do that post mixer. So then if I just press on in, and then what I'm going to do is just press record. So we've now got a 2-bar loop of that recording. What we could do now is just bring that over to our actual loop, and then we could basically bring that into the mix. So you can hear it there. So all we have to do is just bring it up to a level that we're happy with. So I like to start loud and then bring it down, and then just come in between. Or start it before. So that's how you can add vinyl texture into your mix. And then this brings me on to the last part, which is effects and perk fills. So to quickly go over this, effects you can use by creating your own effects, or if you had plugins. In this example, I use Simplant. So Simplant is just basically a random synth patching tool that you can use to create random synth patches. You can also load audio into there, and then what that will do is it will try and synthesize the sound of the audio that you've put into the actual synthesizer itself. So if I hover my mouse over this middle button, you'll see that if I press Command or Control and then click, that will randomize the actual seed itself, the plant itself. So I've set my parameters around the outside to what I would want, and then when I press Command, it will randomize the sound. So if I just took this off, start recording, and then press Command and Random as we're going through the sounds. So for example, and then we could pick out any one of these sounds that we like. Quite like that one. So if we just isolate that one by selecting the area and then pressing Command and E, we could then use that within our track itself. If we just brought up the volume a bit, and then place it to where we think it would sound good. Or there. Bring the volume up a bit. And then let's say we wanted this sound, but not there. We wanted it on this section. What we could do is we could basically just add a nice fade to this. So these little dots here at the side create a fade. So if we just bring this and press Command, we can really get in and hone in on the sound itself. So if we just play this now, really short, snappier version of it. We can also do the same with the attack. So let's just hear how this sounds. And then you could start to build up your effects layers as it is. In this example, I've come up with, instead of that one, it just adds a bit more ear candy. It adds a bit more, what's that there? And you don't need to use these every 4 or 8 bars. You could use these every 16 bars if you wanted to, just to bring it back to that start point. So that's how we make a house beat from scratch in Ableton Live. We've used different elements from the foundation to the percussion bus to custom loop to all these different elements that you can use. You can pick and choose what you wanted to do. There are other sort of stuff that we could do, but that'll be for another video. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been beneficial to you. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and if you like these types of video or not. And yeah, I will see you in the next one.